what can I say? It's been 3 years since I did the Power Rangers Turbo review. I meant to keep going. Other stuff came up. Sorry. I never got back to this. That's not the only thing that's been in limbo for a few years. Right? Lost season 6. Sliders season 5. So, this is the first of 3 videos I'm going to put out today, which will be Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You're already going to have a video on Tuesdays, to be Tuesday. Ain't got to worry about that. So Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, you're going to have a video. I'm going to finish Lost. I'm going to finish Sliders. And I'm going to continue Power Rangers. Probably should have done one of those other ones first. But I found these first. So we're going to talk about this first. It's Power Rangers in Space. That really hurt. So Power Rangers in Space is coming off the heels of probably one of the worst seasons of Power Rangers to happen. Power Rangers Turbo. Now, it's not completely horrible. It has its merits, but Turbo felt like we were going backwards. Whereas the show, especially when it's a show for kids, the show should grow up a little bit, right? As the kids are growing, so should the show. And My Morphin Power Rangers is very goofy. And to go back and watch some of those episodes, like there's a channel called Kids Unlimited or something on Pluto TV. Some kind of channel on there that constantly plays Power Rangers. And going back and watching some of the old episodes of Mighty Morphin and just how goofy and campy that was. I already talked about it. I stand by those reviews I did. See, this is why it took so long, because after a couple years, I'm just like, I should actually redo those. Because if you remember, with those reviews, I was still in the bedroom, sitting on an air conditioner, talking about the stuff with a shelf behind me. And now this is my main space. So, yeah. But I decided I'm going to stick by those reviews, as old as they are. I don't have to do revisited for everything. So I'm sticking by those, because I think some of those views are, still valid for me. But not most of them. And, My Morphin Power Rangers is interesting to go back and watch, because it's very, the first season itself was very much stock footage, and the main things. That's all they were doing. It wasn't until season 2 they started integrating real suits and new stuff and all that. I think Lord Zed was an original creation, so all that happening. So, yeah, they were integrating new stuff, and then season 3 really integrated a lot of new stuff because they were keeping the same suits. And then Zeo was really when they started to get a little bit more different. Yes, there was the goofiness, but it was a little more grown up, a little more serious. And they were still using original stuff. I mean, if you go back and watch Mighty Morphin, you can tell when they're using original suits and not, because Tommy's suit had a foam thing because it was too sharp. When he was just in the suit, it became foam, whereas when he was, the stock footage one, it pointy, and then it was like, all of a sudden it was a foam or a fabric type thing when he took his helmet off. So, yeah. And then Zeo grew up a little bit. Yes, he started some goofy stuff, mainly with Bulk and Skull and Rito and Goldar, but it was a little more grown up because our Rangers had grown up. And then Turbo happened. And Turbo took our characters in a more grown up way, as they graduated from high school. I couldn't think of the word. They graduated from high school, and I will admit that, Power Rangers was getting stale. Jason David Frank wanted to leave. That was the whole thing. He wanted to leave after Zeo, and they told him he couldn't leave until they could figure out how to, write the characters out. So they were in half the season, and all the other characters went with him except for Justin. And while I think it was a good idea, at the time when I was a kid, I did not think it was a good idea. But I think it's a good idea, in retrospect. I think it's a good idea that they changed the cast. It was needed. Otherwise, you keep the same cast, it's going to get stale. I mean, they changed out a couple of things. Like Aisha was gone, and then there was Tanya for Zio, and then Tanya was there, and then they switched out 4 of them, kept Justin. Which I'll admit that Justin is not a bad character. Blake Foster's acting back then, I think even he will admit this, that it wasn't the best. But I'm not going to say it to his face because he kicked my ass. He's an MMA fighter now, and yeah. I don't want to kick my ass. Anyway, yeah, and then it felt like, still felt like they were going backwards with the product now. It was a little more kiddish, even though our characters were graduated. And then the new characters came in, TJ, Cassie, Ashley, and Carlos. And all of a sudden, we're all back in high school now. They're going to high school. Even though TJ and Cassie were on a road trip to do something else entirely, they're now in high school? But I understand that Carlos and Ashley were high school students. But these two that were on road trips to do other things, that Cassie wanted to be in music and TJ wanted something, I can't remember. Now they're just going to high school? Whatever. But this, it's kind of why, in retrospect, I'm talking a lot about Turbo. I'm just kind of trying to get my feelings on it. In retrospect, is why Turbo didn't work is because they decided to go back on what they were doing. Because when it started, it's like, oh, we are going forward. They graduate in high school. Justin's still in high school, but that's fine. Even though he's younger than high school age, he's just really smart. I don't see it, but you know what I mean. The character, not Blake Foster. Please don't get my ass. Just the character of Justin. The character of Justin, not Blake Foster. Don't get my ass. Anyway, but yeah, it is kind of going backwards. So within space, they went forward. They got rid of Justin, which honestly was needed. I'm just saying. And it makes sense that he would stay behind with his dad. He got his dad back. I need a drink. These are good. Tropical Punch, sparkling ice plus caffeine. Pretty good. Anyway. Sorry, I'm rambling. So, at the end of Turbo, they go into space. You're going to go into space. You're going to go into space. Sorry, Venom. Venom. You're going to go into space. You're going to go into space. Go into space. You're going to go into space. It's my Tom Hardy impression, I guess. You're going to space. He's gorgeous. No, I'm back on that from that video that's already out by now. Anyway. You're drinking caffeine now. He's going a million miles an hour. Probably. Anyway, at the end of Turbo, they go into space. And it's TJ, Cassie, Ashley, Carlos, and Alpha. And they go into space, and you're left hanging, much like with the end of the Alien Rangers thing. It was like, oh, where's it going to go now? Now we're going into space. That cliffhanger with the rocket going up, and you see Justin stand there, and there's a freeze frame. No, it shows him going like this, and it's a freeze frame. What's going to happen? I'll tell you what's going to happen. Space. That's what's going to happen. So, as we pick up in Power Rangers in Space, we actually don't pick up with our characters. Weirdly enough, we pick up with someone wearing a hood who will be our Red Ranger. His name is Andros. No last name, just Andros, like Madonna or Prince or Beyonce. Just, yeah, Andros. He never gives us a last name, just Andros. Maybe on KO35 they don't have last names, but they have families. He's an alien from KO35, signified by his wacky highlights. I don't know the highlights. Apparently, Christopher Kamen Lee, who played the character, hated the highlights. I don't blame him to have to toast your hair like that. I'm going to talk about hair. But, yeah, I've dyed my hair before. What hair? Shut up. I've dyed my hair before. I dyed it blonde. Blonde. When I had it. Before the bald spot became more prevalent. My son always points it out, but shut up. Anyway, I'm just saying, dyeing hair is not always the best idea. Luckily, mine worked a couple times. I did it, and I was like, doesn't do anything because I ended up shaving it off anyway. But anyway, so yeah, Andros, and he's the Red Ranger. We find out we really don't see what he looks like underneath until like the next episode, I think, because he's in the suit the whole time. But yeah, and he is checking out this United Alliance of Evil, I think it's called, and you have Divatox and Lord Zed and Rita are there for some reason, and the remnants of Machine Empire are there, and I think they're there. I don't know, but they're talking about this new, you know, evil, the power, because they've taken over everything at the end of the last season, and and then they went into space because Zordon has been kidnapped, and that was the whole reason why the others went into space. So they're talking to introduce the leader of all the evil, Dark Spectre, which is just a reused costume of Malagor from the Turbo movie. Even as a kid, I was like, wait, what? And they do make reference to it with Divatox going, "You look like my beloved ex-husband Malagor," and some to that extent. And then we're introduced to our main villain of the season, Princess Astronema, the Princess of Evil, whatever you want to call her. And she has Quantrons, which are the putties for this season, and they are original American creations. I'll talk about the Japanese ones a little bit later in this video, if I remember. And she is also an original villain, obviously, for obvious reasons. I'm not exactly sure who the original villain was supposed to be. I don't know. But, yeah. But the Red Ranger doesn't drink from his thing, so he's found out, and then he leaves. And then we get opening titles. And then we meet our Rangers. They've gone into space. And their shuttle perfectly locks into what is called the Astro Megaship. Yeah. There we meet our AI, Deca, which you could almost consider an alpha if Alpha wasn't still there. By the way, Alpha, during the shuttle thing, during the ride into space, something got knocked around and now his voice is broken. Eventually, Andros fixes it. But now he's not, "Hey, yo, Rangers, here we go, I'm Alpha." No, now he's more, "Hi, Rangers, I'm Alpha." It's more, it's not the same voice before, but it's better than, "Hey, yo, Rangers, let's go, Turbo," and all that stuff, and bada boom, jets, and, not like that. It's a better voice, which I'm just saying is much better. Andros is reluctant to let them help, which we find out later why. But eventually he relents and they become Power Rangers. Cassie and Ashley keep the designation of pink and yellow, respectively. I'm going to say green. But Carlos and TJ change colors to black and blue. Black and blue. For reasons that now Andros is the Red Ranger. So they're the Power Rangers, and that's that. They also, it's not entirely in space. They go back to Earth, and we find out that not only Ernie retired in the last season, so now, I think it was towards the end of Zeo, Ernie retired. By the way, this whole thing is changing so much. Like, in Zeo, like, I think I still had the youth center, but then by Turbo it was an outside diner thing, and now it's back being inside again. It's now run by Adele, who is Aloma Wright. You may know her from Scrubs. Laverne from Scrubs. Yes, it's her. And the cat lady from Mr. Deeds. Yeah. No! Jump. No! Yeah, her. And she owns, it's called the Surf Shack, I think it's called, and that it's changed now, but I guess, and everything's hunky-dory. Bulk and Skull are back, and another confusing plot point for their development. They went from bullies to trying to find the identity of the Power Rangers to cops in training to private detectives, back to cops, and now they're trying to find aliens. And by the way, for some reason, they join up with Professor Phenomenus, who's called a kook because nobody believes aliens exist. Are you serious? There's an alien every freaking day in this town, and no one believes him when he says aliens are real. What? I don't get it either. But the guy who plays Mr. Phenomenus, I'm sorry I didn't look up his name. He's great. He has that sort of voice that is out of weird, maybe foreign or not. He talks like this. We gotta find an alien. You know, that kind of character. They don't really do much. They're side things. There's one time that Bulk tries to use a blaster on an alien, and it turns out it's a toaster. That's not a blaster. Huh? That's my toaster. You know, their important plot development comes towards the end of the season, really, not here. You know, speaking of plot development, Andros. Because we need to, he's the new character. We know all our old characters, right? So we need a new character, or we have a new character we need to know about his past, right? We find out that Andros had a sister that was kidnapped when they were kids. Couronne. Yeah, she's kidnapped, and they don't know what happened to her, and they never found her. Say, her villain, she's human, right? And Astronema, she's human. I wonder what her story is. Yeah, it's painfully obvious, and Power Rangers does this story again in RPM, and I say it's done better here, because there, it's, oh, we have a female android, and Dylan is also part android. Gee, I wonder, could they be related? But yeah, it is kind of obvious watching it. As a kid, you probably wouldn't catch it, but as an adult, you're sitting there watching it going, oh yeah, that is painfully obvious. Missing sister, and then you find out other things. She was kidnapped by an alien villain called Darkonda, which does come back. And we also have Ecliptor, sort of her second in command type character. She's technically second in command, but she's the main villain. Remember when I said we're going to talk about the actual baddies, the actual putties? Those are the Craterites, or whatever they were called in the original thing. There's an episode called the Craterite Invasion, where when the Rangers are training, there's a malfunction, and the Craterites from the training simulator get out and go everywhere. And they can turn into everyone, apparently. There's a little kid that can see them for what they are, but I don't know. Now, maybe I'm thinking of a different one. But anyway, no, that's a different one. That's the crossover with Lightspeed Rescue a few years later. But, well, I guess there is something with that, too. Maybe they reused that concept. But anyway, but yeah, the Craterites, or whatever they're supposed to be, were the original Sentai baddies. And they used them for this one episode, and that's about it. We never see them again in training stuff at all. The Megazords in this season are a bit confusing. I don't know for sure, but I think the Astro Megazord and the Delta Megazord, the Astro Megazord, are American creations, but not 100%. Because later they find the Mega Voyager, which is the actual Megazord with the pieces, and the original. It has like the same design as their suits. It looks very similar to their suits with the color coding and everything. And it feels like those were the original Zords. And then they decided to use the Megaship stuff for the original fights. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, we have the Astro Megaship, the Astro Megaship, which is when the Astro Megazord, is when the Astro Megaship combines with the shuttle that they came in on, because apparently Zordon had a plan with NASADA, which is their NASA, to do that. Apparently that was a plan the whole time, I guess. And then you have the Delta Megaship, which is something that Andros finds, and is sort of his second Megazord that helped fight things. And then they find the Mega Voyager with the special key cards, and it's the one that you can come together and make fight. That was cool. You had a silo, like a missile, was like a weapon they used to fire it. It was a Blue Ranger Zord, but it was a weapon too. And then there's the Mega Winger, which is the Megazord of the Silver Ranger. Speaking of which, the Silver Ranger is Zane, uh, Andros' best friend from KO 35, and another Ranger who was struck down during a war, a battle, that put him in a coma. And in the same episode, we find out about he was in a coma. He ends up waking up when the ship crashes and power goes out, I think, and he wakes up. The thing, oh no, he's going to die because he's on life support, and then he just wakes up, and it's like, so you just turn it off, you'd have woken up the whole time and not died? This was Power Rangers. We're going to go that serious. And then they get a little goofy because, Zane is having a feelings for Astronema, and this is around the same time that Andros realizes that Astronema is his sister. Yeah. And again, it's going to echo the same thing in RPM, but she ends up realizing the truth and goes over to the good side, only for them to realize they need her help. So she sneaks on board, gets caught, and becomes evil again. Same thing happens in RPM. They just rinse and repeated that storyline, apparently. I don't know. It's done well here, but there it's just copying. So, And we get probably the best story arc in Power Rangers. I don't know. Well, you got the Lunar Wolf in Wild Force, but this is a contender for best. The Psycho Rangers. That's right. Evil Rangers show up. At first, I believe they look like the Rangers, and then they evolve into looking like them. You know what the Psycho Rangers look like. There's 5 of them. Red, blue, black, yellow, and pink. And because of Sentai footage, they also can transform into monsters. I don't know. I think the Psycho Rangers are original, but the monster versions aren't. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe they're not. I don't know. But, yeah, it's a whole, they had a VHS featuring most, not all the parts to the saga, and I rented it from the library. It's pretty cool. And, yeah, it's a pretty cool saga that works out better for the 6th Ranger than it does in Lightspeed Rescue, let me tell you. And he disguises himself as a silver Psycho Ranger, and then there is no Psycho Silver, but but it works, right? And it's compelling. There's they're not just one note villains, although they are sort of one note. Like, oh, I want to destroy the Red Ranger and the Blue Ranger, and then when they come together and fight them, they're they're indestructible. So what's the Ranger solution? Well, they have to switch and fight different ones, and it works. And eventually it gets down to 3, and they end up having human forms and are tracking communications, so they can't communicate with anyone. It leaves Cassie out in the open for this, but eventually, it works out. Another thing that this season does is introduce the Battleizer, which was an American thing, I found out. The Battleizer was used during an arc where it's after Kuron's become evil again. She has the Bob, the red hair Bob with the computer thing on her head. And which, again, she had this weird bluish, silver, purplish hair. It changes depending on which episode. Sometimes it's silver, sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's purple throughout most of it. And then she becomes normal, and then she goes back, and she has this red bob, and I'm just like, so she's gonna sneak in and pretend to be evil with a different hair? I don't know. But, so she starts kidnapping people and taking them to another area. It's like in a dome and everything. And among them are Andros, Carlos, and Sylvie, which is Carlos's little girl that he's friends with. It's a kid's show. Whatever. She knows he's the Black Ranger. And I think maybe they take care of a group of kids, and this is just one that's kind of closer with them, I guess. And she knows he's the Black Ranger, and she knows they're Power Rangers. And Andros has this Battleizer that he uses to kind of help him power up, and not to push the highest level, which I think is 4, or 3. One of the ones. And she pushes it, which causes him to go, and get the Battleizer all over him. which is cool about it. I had the toy. I had the toy when I was a kid. It was like a muscled up version of the Red Ranger, and they put the wings on and the thing over the head. It was pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And as battle lasers go, it is one of the better ones. Before they, were just not very good. Leo. We'll get to the Lost Galaxy. We'll talk about Leo's bad battle lasers. Big old feet in the thing. It looks like plastic or rubber. It looks like rubber. Anyway, this looked pretty cool. Even though this kind of wibble wobble a little bit when he's standing there, but they know enough to keep him like steady. Because after he uses it, he's just like this, and he stands there for a minute as the camera turns around him, so it works better that way. Crossovers in this season. Before I get onto the final arc here, crossovers in this season, there wasn't a big crossover. Now, a lot of people say, when you ask what's the first crossover? Oh, to the 10th Power, right? Lost Galaxy and Power Rangers in Space. And to that, I give you a Kevin Spacey. Wrong! Because a lot of people say that. It's like, no, maybe these don't count per se, but the first Ranger Team team up was in Zeo. I probably talked about that in my video about it, but Rangers of Two Worlds. Now, that was mostly about getting rid of the character of Billy. So I can see why people say that To the 10th Power is the first Ranger to Ranger crossover. Sure, it's the first one where they're mostly involved. Andros more than any others, but But there are 3 separate crossovers in this. The first of which is a team-to-team crossover when the Power Rangers meet the Ninja Turtles. But it's the dumbed-down Next Mutation Ninja Turtles with the female turtle. And it's fine. I already talked about it on the channel in Retro Rewind. My full thoughts on that. It's fine. It's fun. It's fine and fun, as Tony from Hack Movies would say. It's fine. It's fun. It's fine and fun. It's fine. For whatever it is. The other 2, though, are more notable. True Blue to the rescue sees the return of Justin. Yay! But I tell you, this is better. He's got a haircut. And whatever the blue truck was called, not Mountain Blaster, a different one, comes to him because him and the red car that could sort of talk. I told you Turbo got weird. Were captured, but the blue one goes to Justin. So Justin contacts the other Rangers. And so the Rangers introduce Justin. By the way, in this episode, he's like, I hope my friends are okay. Dude, they've been going back to Earth all this time and didn't stop by and say, hey, Justin, we're all right. We did all right. They're literally still in Angel Grove. And they not before this episode stopped by and say, hey, Justin, just want to say we're okay. We made it. We're all right. We're Power Rangers again. No, they don't. Yeah. Eventually, he has to morph into the Blue Turbo Ranger. And yes, he and TJ have a moment where she's like, hey, Teach, Blue's looking good on you. And it's like, okay. But yeah, it's not a true crossover. But the best crossover, always a chance. Always a chance. In this episode, they fight a alien villain called Backsacker, which can use its tongue to switch places with someone. During one of the fights, Carlos goes to attack it and it switches places with Cassie, causing her to get hurt. This causes Carlos to lose his confidence. And who comes to help him? Adam, the second Black Ranger, not original, the second Black Ranger. So he helps him with some training, tries to help him get his confidence back, but he's shaken. He's physically shaken. We also see that he still has his damaged morpher. Asks Alpha what it would do if he used it, and Alpha said, "Aye, don't use that. It could destroy you." Which, by the way, Power Rangers didn't want to use the word kill, but destroy was fine. I think, we could destroy you. You could be destroyed. Destroyed was fine, but kill was no. Can't say kill. Destroy's good though. I know, right? Destroy could be worse than kill. I don't know. Even my stomach didn't like that. You know what I mean? But anyway. But yeah. So yeah, if Adam used it, he could be destroyed. Of course, it never gets that serious. Anyway. So Backsacker attacks again. Carlos still doesn't have his, attacks both of them. And, Carlos is getting his ass kicked, basically. So Adam uses the Morpher, even though Alpha's like, no, no. And he uses it, morphing into the Black Ranger. Although he's physically getting hurt as well. But, he ends up fine, because this is Power Rangers. You just can't use it again, which, this whole rule, they can't use the former Morpher again because the power is weak, goes away in future crossover stuff. He gets powers back again in Once a Ranger, the crossover, the big 15th anniversary special. There's 2 parts in Power Rangers Operation Overdrive. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have thoughts on the Disney version of Power Rangers too. We'll get to it when we get to those. And we will get to those, I promise you. But yeah, that's the best of the 3 technically crossover episodes you could talk about. I think that one is. So, the final arc. So, during the story, Karone, now evil again, decides that now that she's evil, she must be really, really evil now because she wants to be the empress of all evil. So, or the queen of all evil, whatever, and she concocts a plan to kill Dark Spectre, which works. I think it sucks some of his powers, and eventually he just withers away. And they claim it was the Power Rangers that were doing it, which, again, they use this idea in the next season with Scorpius, with Deviant causing Scorpius' death, and him telling Scorpina it was the Red Ranger that did it. It's not true. Anyway, so now that she's the whole almighty Empress of Evil, she's going to take over the place, and she has united whatever I said of evil connected. You see the Blue Centurion, you see the Phantom Ranger, you see the Alien Rangers fighting, and you see like the Machine Empire, and you see Zed and Rita on another planet. Divatox is back, and they're all United Alliance of Evil, there it is, fighting on different planes, and Astronema takes over Earth, right? It's a case of all the people are living in the streets because of the attack, and it's like, look, you always think with this, like, why are they in it? They still have houses, right? But they're like sleeping in the streets and stuff, and the Rangers are hiding in secret. But hey, evil people, you're looking for the Rangers, right? What about the people all huddled together that are color-coded with the Rangers' colors? By the way, they know what they look like. They know where they are. But, Countdown to Destruction is a 3-parter where they realize that she has Zordon on her ship. And so they have to save Zordon and save the world. The galaxy, the universe. Screw the universe. The galaxy, So, Andros sneaks aboard the ship. The evil ship. While the others stay down there and hide, basically. Andros sneaks during the night. And then we get to the moment that defines Bulk and Skull's story. Right? Because if this was the Bulk and Skull from the first season, no doubt they would try to go to lengths to find out who the Power Rangers were to sell them out. Astronema comes out. She says, "Bring me the Power Rangers." So Bulk and Skull, they stand there, and Bulk goes, "I am the Black Ranger." And Skull goes, "I am the Blue Ranger." "I am the Silver Ranger." Everyone, what's her name? Adele pops in there. I'm the Yellow Ranger." And they're all just, they won't give up who the Rangers are, right? And the Rangers see this, and they're like, wow, these people they believe in us so much that they would sacrifice themselves. They would stand up to the evil. Just, they're not going to riot. Other shows would have them riot and try to find the thing, but not this. This makes much more sense than those shows that would do the other. So then, she's like, "Oh, you want to give me the Rangers? Fine. Destroy them all." But the Rangers show up, unmorphed, the 4 of them. And we get the moment that just, they're like, "Hey, we're the Power Rangers. And you got Bulk turning to Skull and going, them? Which, again, I've said this since the episode first aired, and I'll say it now. It would have meant so much more if they found out when it was the original lineup of Power Rangers. But I understand a lot of things happen. Or at least when Tommy was still around, like in Turbo. They found out Turbo when Tommy was still around. Because it would make sense. But, like, it does make Bulk and Skull look stupid that they're hanging out with these people. Like, first of all, it is kind of weird that they still hung out with this group after the ones that were actually their friends left. Their only connection would be Justin, and they didn't really know Justin that well. Justin would have only been there for a few months when they had the power transfer. So it's still confusing, but they still, knew them. Although in this season they were kind of distant, or they did show up a little bit. There's like a milkshake thing here and there, But I didn't talk much about their side plot because it is just something to keep them on the show. It's about as much I'll talk about their side plots in the next season because there really isn't one. Anyway, the two of them are there. They show up and then they're gone and they show up again and I don't know, but yeah. So they know who the Power Rangers are. Them, and they morph and they fight, and then we get the moment. We get a final fight between Ecliptor and Andros. And Zordon tells Andros that the only way to stop this is by destroying his chamber that he's in and causing a wave of good to go out throughout the entire galaxy. The Zordon wave, as it would be known by Power Rangers fans. Andros can't do it at first, but eventually relents and does it. Uses the Spiral Saber to do it. And the whole wave washes over, destroying anything that's evil, but changing Divatox, Zed, and Rita into humans. Yeah, which is also confusing when you look at later seasons where they bring back Zed and Rita, Robo Rita. And also, I mentioned Operation Overdrive's 50th anniversary crossover. They have a son that is like mutated. So the only thing I think of is that he was born when they were still on the moon during Turbo. I don't know. But then they said that he was like for centuries, and I'm just like, centuries? They didn't get married till 1995. What are you talking about, centuries? Was it 96? 95? No, whatever. 94, I mean. 94. It's 1994. I don't know. Centuries. It's confusing. It implies that they had a relationship before that. But then that would... So maybe her love potion uncovered some hidden love between them? I don't know. Maybe it's a time travel thing. Wibbly wobbly. He was shot through time, and I don't know. But the Z-Wave, the Zordon Wave, whatever, goes throughout the galaxy. Destroys all the evil. I guess. But until the next season, because I want to continue it. And, yeah. And this was supposed to be the end of the series. Yeah, this was the end of the Zordon era. Kinda. And this is supposed to be the end of the show. Kinda. But the show did so good, because this was one of the best seasons, that they just renewed it. So, yeah. And so, we end on KO-35. Andros, Karone, and Zane staying behind while the others go back to Earth. But psych! As they're crying, as Ashley is crying, which, by the way, I forgot to mention. But there is other love interest stuff besides the stupid Zane and Karone stuff that doesn't really go anywhere in retrospect. Ashley and Andros have a love interest thing that kind of gets interrupted when Zane shows up. Zane's just ruining things because he thinks that Ashley wants Zane more now that he's around and he's jealous. But by the way, Andros can also use telepathy to move things, but I don't remember if Zane could do that. I don't know. But that's why the ball is swirling around in the flashback thing. I don't know why I always thought, why is it doing that? Can it just do that? He's doing it with his telepathy. Okay. Wow. Anyway, they decide they're all going back to Earth. And then when they get there, they must decide, we don't need the ship anymore. Let's just make it a museum. Because that's what it is by the time the next season pops up. But yeah, it's a big, good, it's a nice, happy ending as opposed to, we're going to cry and fly off. No, of course we're going to have a happy ending. You're going to show up. Decca, set course for Earth. But yeah, this is probably one of the best seasons of Power Rangers. Ironically, also, RPM is one of the best. It's very dark, considering that Sentai season was about talking cars. So yeah, they had heavily changed that, but this was really good. So yeah. So what are your thoughts on Power Rangers in Space? Console, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.